This is the I'm in Love with That Song podcast. Welcome back, friends, to the I'm in Love with That Song podcast. We're surfing the intertubes to come to you courtesy of the Pantheon network of podcasts. I'm Brad Page, the host of this shindig, and each edition of this show, I pick a favorite song and we explore it together. This is a show for any music fan. We don't get too technical or get into music theory or anything like that. So you don't have to be any kind of expert. This show only requires two things: a love for music and a healthy dose of curiosity. So this episode is going to be a little different than usual, but I hope you find it interesting. To paraphrase or mangle an old saying, when something happens twice, it could be a coincidence. When something happens 3 or more times, well, that's a mystery waiting to be solved. And that is where the curiosity comes in, because I get curious about certain things like this. Many years ago, I'm talking like 40-something years ago, when I got my first copy of David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust album, it caught my eye that Bowie wrote every song on the album except one. The last song on side 1 is a song called It Ain't Easy.
When you climb to the top of the mountain, look out over the sea. Think about the place perhaps where a young man could be. Then you jump back down to the rooftops. Look out over the town. Think about all of the strange things circulating round. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to get to heaven and go down. Well, all the people have got their problems.
I looked at the credits for this song and saw that it was written by someone named Ron Davies. At first, I thought maybe that's Ray Davies, from the Kinks. But nope, not Ray. It's Ron, a completely different guy, not related at all. But I always liked that song, so it stuck with me. A few years later, I picked up an album by a band called Detroit. This was a band fronted by Mitch Ryder of Devil with the Blue Dress fame. And this is just a great rock and roll record. I really love this album. And one of the tracks on this album is It Ain't Easy. It's Detroit's version of the same song. This album was actually released in 1971, a year before Ziggy Stardust. Skip ahead a few years, I was turned on to an R&B singer named Bettye LaVette, who's become maybe my favorite female vocalist of all time, and so I started collecting her albums. I picked up a reissue of her very first album, Child of the 70s, and the first song on that album is It Ain't Easy. This song by a songwriter I've never heard of keeps turning up. And then, just a couple of years ago, I finally picked up an album that I've been looking for quite a while, an album by legendary background singer Claudia Lennear called Phew. I put the album on, and sure enough, there's that song again, It Ain't Easy. So that was kind of like the last straw. I had to find out more about this song, which was written by a fairly obscure artist, had never been a hit for anybody, yet so many artists kept covering it. What is the story of this song? On this episode, we're going to find out.
It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to go ahead if you're going down. And where the people, they got their problems, but that ain't nothing new. Tell your patience and understanding, they can get you on.
We'll be right back after this. Ron Davies was born Ronnie Wayne Dickerson on January 15, 1946, in Shreveport, Louisiana. His father was Tex Dickerson, a country singer. His sister, Gail, would become a well-known singer-songwriter herself and the first female record producer in country music. Both Gail and Ronnie took their stepfather's last name when their mother remarried, hence Davies. They also moved from the South up to Tacoma, Washington. That's where his stepfather gave him his first guitar. In the 1960s, the Pacific Northwest was a hotbed of the sound that would eventually be called garage rock. That's the sound of Nuggets-era bands like the Sonics, the Kingsmen, and Paul Revere and the Raiders. And one of the biggest bands on that scene were the Wailers. Not to be confused with Bob Marley and the Wailers, completely separate band. The Wailers had a hit with a song called Tall Cool One in 1959. In 1966, the Wailers released an album called Outburst. Every song on that album was written by Ron Davies. He was only 17 at the time. That established Ron as a songwriter, but he also played and recorded as a solo artist. In 1968, he signed to A&M Records as a singer-songwriter and released his debut solo album in 1970. That album was called Silent Song Throughout the Land. The album was produced by Chad Stewart of Chad and Jeremy fame, and the single released from that album was It Ain't Easy. The song features kind of an all-star lineup, including the great Leon Russell on piano, Jim Keltner on drums, and backing vocals by Clyde King, Vanetta Fields, and Mary Clayton, who we've talked about on this show before.
When you go up on the mountain top and you look out across the sea, and you know there's another place perhaps that a young man could be, and you jump down to the rooftops and you look out across the town, and you know there's a lot of strange things that circulating round. But it ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to go ahead if you're going down. Where the people, they got their problems, but that ain't nothing new. Tell your patience and understanding, they can get you on through. They can get you on through, though. They can take you to the end. They can woo and take you up and let you down again. But it ain't easy. It ain't easy.
The song never hit the Billboard chart, though it did chart in Canada, reaching number 55 on their RPM chart. Ron Davies would release a second solo album, UFO, in 1974, which included some of the same songs that were on that first album, including It Ain't Easy. He moved to Nashville in 1985 and continued working as a songwriter. Ron Davies died from a heart attack in October of 2003. The next time It Ain't Easy appeared was courtesy of Three Dog Night. It was actually the title cut from their third album, released in March 1970. Three Dog Night didn't write their own material, but they were pretty good at finding and adapting other people's songs and had churned out quite a few hits. The It Ain't Easy album included their hit version of Mama Told Me Not to Come, along with their take on Elton John's Your Song, and a cover of Woman, a song by Free, who are about to be featured on an upcoming episode here. Three Dog Night's version of It Ain't Easy is less swampy, doesn't have that gospel choir feel in the chorus, and the song is a little more AM radio friendly, which fits Three Dog Night's style, but the song still retains quite a bit of the original's feel.
Satisfaction, satisfaction. Tell me who is satisfied when who's taking it in, that you hold it deep inside, that you hold it in deep, and you by the way that deep. And woman, she can give you some relief, but it ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to go ahead when you're going down. It ain't easy when you go down.
Though Three Dog Night's It Ain't Easy album was a big hit, they never released the song as a single, at least not as an A-side, so the song still hadn't really hit the charts. It Ain't Easy resurfaced again in 1971 with a version by Long John Baldry. Baldry was a fixture of British blues in the 1960s. He was a founding member of that scene. He had gigged along with the Rolling Stones, and both Rod Stewart and Elton John had been members of his band. He helped to give them their start. When he released his fifth album in 1971, both Rod and Elton returned the favor by each of them producing half of the record. The album was titled, of course, It Ain't Easy. The song It Ain't Easy appears on side 1. That was the side produced by Rod Stewart. Baldry's version is bluesier. It's a little slower, heavy with that blues rock swagger. Baldry's vocal is intense, digging into the despair of the lyrics. And he's supported on the chorus by the backing vocals of Maggie Bell, one of the great blues rock vocalists of her time. She's been forgotten, unfortunately, but I would put her right up there with Janis Joplin. She's that good. Check out her vocals. Also featured on this track is Ron Wood on slide guitar.
All you people, you got your problems. That ain't nothing new. To your patience and understanding, it can get you through. While it can't get you through, Lord, it can take you to the end. It can take you up, oh Lord, let you down again.
Also in 1971, there was an album released that I personally really love. Mitch Ryder made his name fronting the Detroit Wheels in the 1960s and had a number of hits, including Devil with a Blue Dress On, Jenny Take a Ride, and Sock It To Me Baby. In the early 1970s, he formed a new band just called Detroit. They took Ryder's already ramped-up R&B flavored rock and added a heavier edge. Detroit featured guitarist Steve Hunter, who would go on to work for Lou Reed and Alice Cooper, great guitar player. Detroit only issued one self-titled album. It came out in 1971, and it included this version of It Ain't Easy. Check out the little riffs added by Steve Hunter, along with the pretty busy bass part played by W.R. Cook.
When you go up on the mountain top, look out across the sea. Know there's a lot of things perhaps that a young man could be. Jump out to the rooftop, say, look out across the town. Know there's a lot of strange things circulating around. It ain't
Dave Edmunds has had a multifaceted career, to say the least. A terrific guitarist and a great singer, he first made his mark in the British psychedelic-tinged rock band Love Sculpture in 1968 and then went solo. He had a big hit with I Hear You Knocking in 1970. He went on to form Rockpile, became an in-demand record producer, and collaborated with many artists, including Paul McCartney. But back in 1972, he released his first solo album. It was called Rockpile, and it featured his take on It Ain't Easy. His version is less bluesy than Baldry and avoids the studio sheen of Three Dog Night. It's not as riffy as Detroit's version, and he injects some of his rockabilly sensibility into it. But the bones of the song remain the same. Let's hear a little of Dave Edmunds doing It Ain't Easy.
Satisfaction, when she take it, and she hold it deep inside, and she hold it deep inside, and she buys the baby teeth, and a little woman boy, she will give you some relief. It ain't easy.
Next, we get to the big one. If you're familiar with this song at all, it's probably this version. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars is not only one of David Bowie's biggest records, it's one of the most iconic albums of the 1970s, probably of all time. When you talk all-time classic albums, this one has got to be on the list. Ziggy Stardust is a concept album, a very particular, specific vision of David Bowie's. So why, on this album of songs about a space alien rock star, is there a version of It Ain't Easy? Well, the track was originally recorded for Bowie's previous album, Hunky Dory, released the year before in 1971. It was left off of that album, but for some reason they decided to include it on the Ziggy Stardust record. Rick Wakeman played many of the keyboard parts on the Hunky Dory album, and because this track was recorded during those sessions, he appears on this song playing harpsichord. It's the only song on the Ziggy Stardust album that Wakeman appears on. Rick Wakeman was, of course, a member of Yes and would become a legendary keyboard and synthesizer player. Also appearing on this song is Dana Gillespie, providing background vocals on the chorus. Neither Wakeman or Gillespie were credited on the original release of the album. Not surprisingly, Bowie's version drifts the furthest away from the bluesy, swampy vibe of the original. The harpsichord in particular takes it to a different place. You don't find the harpsichord on too many blues numbers.
Well, all the people have got their problems. That ain't nothing new. With the help of the good Lord, we can all pull on through. We can all pull on through. Get there in the end. Sometimes they'll take you right up and sometimes down again. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to get to where we go down. Satisfaction, satisfaction. Keep me satisfied. I got the love of a coochie woman. She calling from inside.
Bettye LaVette is, hands down, one of my favorite singers. We featured her on an episode a while back, so if you want to dig into her history further, go listen to episode 139 on Bettye LaVette and I Still Want to Be Your Baby. But to sum up things briefly here, Bettye released her first single way back in 1962 and had some success on the R&B charts in the 60s. In 1972, she went to the legendary Muscle Shoals Sound Studios to record her first album. That album was called Child of the 70s, and I think it's a great record. But for some inexplicable reason, the record company never released it. God knows why, but it was put on a shelf until it was rediscovered in 1999 and finally issued. And people rediscovered Bettye LaVette. That album features Bettye's version of It Ain't Easy, recorded in 1972, the same year that Ziggy Stardust was released, though Bettye's version wouldn't be officially released until 27 years later. Claudia Lennear was one of the premier backup singers in the business. She started her career as an Ikette with Ike and Tina Turner, and her list of credits is a mile long. She's sung on albums by Stephen Stills, Joe Cocker, Dave Mason, Humble Pie, Ry Cooder, Taj Mahal, Freddie King. The list goes on. But she only released one solo album back in 1973. That album was called Phew, P-H-E-W, and it opens with It Ain't Easy. Claudia's version injects the song with a whole lot of Rolling Stones-style swagger and a touch of gospel. It also features some excellent guitar work by the great Ry Cooder. Things went quiet for a few years after that until Graham Bonnet recorded a version of It Ain't Easy for his 1977 solo album. Bonnet established himself as one of the leading hard rock and metal singers with his work with Rainbow and Alcatraz, but here's his take on It Ain't Easy. One of the more oddball versions was recorded by Dennis Waterman, who was mostly known as a TV actor in the UK, though he also had a career as a singer. A British version of David Hasselhoff, I guess. He released a version in 1977, but I don't own that record to be able to play it for you. Chris Smither is a blues and folk artist who started his career in the folk scene around Cambridge, Massachusetts. In 1984, he stripped the song down to its pure basics and released his version of It Ain't Easy.
Satisfaction, satisfaction, who is satisfied? What the woman wants when she holds you deep inside, when she holds you deep inside, boy, and she bites you with her teeth. Tell me what the woman wants, won't you give me some relief? 'Cause it ain't easy, it ain't easy, it ain't easy to go ahead when you're going down.
In 1996, there was a Bowie tribute album released called Crash Course for the Ravers. The alternative band Hazel had the honors of contributing their version of It Ain't Easy. I wouldn't typically include this song here because it's more of a tribute to Bowie than it is a cover of the original song, but just to be complete, here's Hazel's version of It Ain't Easy.
Top of the mountain, look out over the sea. Think about all the places perhaps where a young man could be. Then you jump back down to the rooftops, look out over the town. Think about all the strange things circulating round. It ain't easy. All the people have got their problems. That ain't nothing new.
In more recent years, the song's been covered by the Raconteurs.
Well, all the people have got their problems. That ain't nothing new. With the help of the good Lord, we can all pull on through. We can all pull on through. Sometimes I take you right up, and sometimes down again. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to get to heaven when you're going down.
And Shelby Lynne did a nice version of it.
Well, you go upon the mountaintop, take a look out across the sea, and you know there's another place perhaps that a young man could be. So you jump down to the rooftops, and you look out across the town, and you know there's a lot of strange things are circulating around. But it ain't easy. It ain't
Fish covered it when they performed the entire Ziggy Stardust album in 2016. And just last year, in 2025, Alexis P. Suter recorded a version for her album, Just Stay High.
Well, people got their problems. That ain't nothing new. With the help of the good Lord, we can all pull through. We can all pull through. Get there in the end. Sometimes it'll take you right up, and sometimes down again. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It ain't easy to get to heaven when you're going down. It ain't easy. It ain't easy.
So that brings us up to date. I wouldn't be surprised if I missed some other versions of this song, but as far as I can find, these are the significant versions of this track. We've heard this same song filtered through blues to country to glam to soul to rock and back again. The bones of this song remain remarkably consistent, I think, and yet it can slide so easily into the repertoire of so many diverse artists. Not one of these versions was ever a hit. It was never a commercial success, and yet the song has lived a pretty interesting life, and who knows where it'll turn up next. Well, I hope you enjoyed this history ride through the lifespan of this one song. I have to say, this episode is kind of the perfect example of why I do this podcast. Every episode begins with me asking myself a question and then trying to find the answer, just for my own satisfaction. I never go into an episode knowing all the answers. The fun part for me is learning all of this stuff and then sharing it with you. And I hope you find all of this as interesting as I do. Thanks for joining me here on the Pantheon Podcast Network, where fans belong. New episodes of this podcast come out on the 1st and the 15th of every month, so you can bet your sweet bippy that the I'm in Love with That Song podcast will be back soon. Until then, visit our website at lovethatsongpodcast.com to find all of our previous episodes. Whether you're catching up on shows you missed or want to rediscover some of your favorites, our website is the best place to do it. You can support the show by going to oldglory.com and buying a t-shirt or some band merch from your favorite artists. They have a ton of stuff on their site, and if you use our discount code LOVETHATSONG, you'll save 15% and you'll be supporting the show. That's discount code LOVETHATSONG. The website is oldglory.com. I would also ask that you share this show with your friends and family. The word-of-mouth support from savvy listeners like you is the best way to spread the word and grow this show. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm going to pack it in for the night. Thanks again for sticking with me on this one. So many great versions of this song. But if I had to pick just one, well, I got a real soft spot for that version by Detroit featuring Mitch Ryder. So let's close it out with Detroit's version of It Ain't Easy. I'll see you next time.